All right. Now, I would like to invite somebody up. You may have heard of him, David Hicks. He's a friend of the Institute and the author of Norms and Nobility.
This is a surprise visit and a surprise moment for me, as well as for our honored guests today, Andrew Kern. Where are you, Andrew? Yeah, you raise your hand. Yep. I was invited to make a presentation of a book that some friends and I have written in your honor, Andrew, and we're going to give this book to you now. I was told that my mission in presenting this book, not yet, Andrew, not yet. He's so eager to get new books. I was told that my mission was either to make you cry or to leave you speechless. Now, any of us who know you, I don't know anyone who's ever seen you cry. And I cannot imagine you speechless. So with a challenge like that, I thought I had to get on that plane in Montana yesterday and come to South Carolina in the middle of the summer. I mean, it's like leaving paradise and going briefly to hell. Isn't that what the Great Divorce is all about? Anyway, I'm going to tell a very brief little story, and then I'm going to make the presentation of the book to Andrew. I wish you were an audience of teenagers, because this story I would particularly like to tell to teenagers. In the middle 1970s, I want to tell you how this is how a seed is planted and how God does things that are completely beyond our intention, our understanding. It's incomprehensible how life works out that way, and I'll bet everybody here has a story like this to tell. I had just lost a close congressional race in New York, young guy, just 27 years old, and I learned something in that race, and that was I had no future in politics. And boy, has history ever proven me to be, or God to be, very wise. But I was offered a job by the Whitehead Foundation in Atlanta to study what then was the American curriculum in high schools. They gave me a nice expense account to fly all over the country, visit high schools, see what was being taught, how it was being taught, and to make a presentation to the foundation and to one of Atlanta's prestigious independent schools at the end of the year about what I had learned. And I came to the conclusion that year that although I saw some very good teaching going on, I visited some very prestigious high schools, that American education had kind of slipped the tracks and that we were heading in a very toxic, malignant direction, and that we were not educating young people. Now this, remember, was in the mid-70s before it really became clear that we were dumbing down generation after generation of students. And at the end of the year, I made my presentation to the Whitehead Foundation and to some educators. And they honestly looked at me at the end of the presentation as if I had 3 heads. That's not what they were looking for. They were looking for some tweaks to the system. You know, do we need to do more physical sciences? Do we need to do more social sciences? Do we need to do this and that? More of the same kind of tweaking that was to go on throughout my lifetime and only make matters worse. So I went home to my new wife, who was pregnant with our first child, complete lost year. I was working as a carpenter's assistant in rural Georgia at the time. And I told her, I said, I think I probably need to sit down and write everything I've learned this year out. Otherwise, the year is a complete loss. All this work was for nothing. I had, of course, notebooks full of my notes. So I wrote down, and in a few, I think probably not more than 2 or 3 weeks, I wrote Norms of Nobility, because it was all in my head. And I sent it to a friend of mine in New York who was an editor at Prager Publishers, good friend. And I wrote to George and I said, this is probably not publishable, but I'm sending it to you because maybe you know of a publishing company in New York that would publish it, some small press. George wrote back and said, you're in luck. Our head publisher happens to be a graduate of your university. He loved the book. He wants to publish it here. But we're not going to be able to show it to the rest of our editors, our editorial board, because they won't accept it. So George got the book published, very small edition, I think 500 copies. I was thrilled that they did it, and that was going to be the end of the story. Well, and by the way, when they published it, George said none of the other editors in the house would even speak to him because he had done an end run. You know, that's how publishing houses work. They have to go through the editorial board. They all discuss it. They all debate it. They all defend their own books. And these people were in this particular house were either were all social scientists. They were all, you know, they were publishing books about social science, psychology, sociology, anthropology, etc. No wonder they didn't like my book. Anyway, at the end of that year, it was the only book that Prager published that year that won an ALA, a national award. Suddenly, the book was like, oh, well, we need to get several thousand of this printed because libraries just automatically buy against that list. And suddenly the editors were speaking again to my friend George. Anyway, roll forward a little bit, and there's a young man doing his dissertation or whatever, and he decides he's interested in classical education, and he's going through his school's library, and he finds this, I guess the only book in the library on classical education, which happened to be Norms and Nobility. And he read it, and he said, wow, what a great idea. I agree with this guy. And you'll read my little contribution to this book was how we met, which I'm not going to spoil. But what's amazing to me is how this series of failures on my part, lack of success, led to, oh, thank you, Alex, led to everybody in this room through the grace of God and the hard work and tenacity of Andrew Kern. I mean, he is my hero. He is something who not only had an idea, like yours truly, but he did something with it. He took that idea and shared it with others and built a very powerful organization that is fighting a losing war right now. And so you are my heroes too, because you're losing this war, but you're not giving up hope. You're still fighting hard, like those Ukrainians. You're defending your territory. And you're in my prayers. And Andrew, look what you've done. Thank you. You can come up now.
I suppose you curious cats want to know what that book's all about. That's what I'm here for. 3 years ago, it occurred to us that we would never be able to give Andrew the Paideia Prize because it would be a little too nepotistic within the CiRCE Institute. So we have to wait till he dies. Which, I mean, I'm sure is around the corner. But we wanted to do something for him. And so about 3 years ago, the idea to commission a Festschrift was born. And for those of you who are not familiar, a Festschrift is a book of essays or letters or meditations or contemplations or whatever, written by friends in honor of a particular person and that person's ideas and how that person's ideas have impacted and affected the contributors. And so we reached out to many of his friends and they said no. So we found random people and we paid them to contribute. Actually, I'm kidding because everybody who contributed did not get paid for this book. I don't want some of them thinking that they did. Okay, so the book is called Liber Amicorum, which is the Latin term for a Festschrift, and it means a book of friends, or the book of friends. This one has essays written by Wes Callahan, Josh Leland, Buck Holler, Christopher Perrin, Brian Phillips, myself. Brian Phillips is not me. I'm Brian Phillips, then me, Mark Hayes, David Hicks, David Goodwin, Joshua Gibbs, Gregory Wilbur, Martin Cawthron, Katarina Kern, Heidi White, Tim McIntosh, Renee Mathis, and Andrew's brother, Philip Kern. And it's just a collection of people describing how Andrew and or his ideas have impacted each of us. And this is the first anybody's ever seen it. I don't know how we pulled off The Secret for 3 years without him finding out. I don't even know how we got him here on time this morning. Thank you, Karen. We love you. And then this is it. And this book will be has been gifted to Andrew. And this is the special giveaway this morning. And this one has been signed by all of the contributors who are here, all the ones here. We didn't mail it to Australia so that his brother could sign it and then mail it back. But that didn't happen. And then for the rest of you that don't get this free copy, there will be some for sale at the table. So